I say this as a historian. We had a revolution, we had a civil war, we've had two world wars. We are in one of the most challenging moments in our nation's history because there is such a sharp divide in our politics.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Steven Beschloss, and this is Six Questions. What does it mean to be an American right now? What are our responsibilities as citizens amid so much conflict and chaos, corruption and crime? And what kind of leaders are needed who can model a healthy vision of citizenship? These are the questions that have inspired me to talk to Alex Vindman, who's currently running for the U.S. Senate in Florida. He's likely best known to you as the lieutenant colonel from the National Security Council who blew the whistle in 2019 when he heard Donald Trump's blackmailing call with Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky, which led to Trump's first impeachment. Vindman's an expert on Europe and Ukraine. He's also the best-selling author of The Folly of Realism, How the West Deceived Itself About Russia and Betrayed Ukraine. This is a man who's dedicated his life to service and has plenty to tell us. So let's jump in. Alex, it's a pleasure to talk to you today, especially to help us think through these troubling times in our history.
Great to be on with you again, Stephen. Thanks.
Thanks. Always a pleasure to talk to you. So these are difficult times for so many Americans who are struggling economically, who've lost faith in the promise of America, worry about the survival of our democracy. It's led me to reflect on the meaning of citizenship and patriotism, particularly in this 250th year of our country's founding. So let's start with where you are. Why run for the U.S. Senate? This surely means turning your life upside down, and specifically, why now?
I think in part, frankly, because we are in a powerful moment. We are celebrating our 250th anniversary. In the big scheme of, time horizons of countries and empires, it's short. But what we have accomplished in the span of 250 years has been amazing. We ushered in the era of democracies. We've elevated humanity because of our contributing our power, not for self-service, but for the good of the American people, but also the greater good. Our technology and innovation, our ability to evangelize and advocate for democracy has given humanity a chance to chart their own course, set their own destiny. It's the same reason that I joined the military. Even at the age of finishing up university and get commissioned as an officer, I recognized that there's something absolutely unique and special about this country, and that it drew myself and my brothers to serve. My twin brother and I made a career out of military service. My career spanned more than 21 and a half years in combat, Purple Heart recipient as a diplomat in embassies in Kiev, Ukraine, Moscow, Russia, in the Pentagon, and ultimately in the White House on the National Security Council, contributing to securing America and promoting this vision of the United States as well as a different course for humanity. I was forced out of the military after reporting corruption at the presidential level and
we'll get to that.
Yeah, I remember writing this article in Washington Post explaining that I was ending that chapter of my life, but recommitting to public service. And what I've been doing for the past several years is I ended up getting a doctorate and published a couple of books, but lecturing and teaching. But I also helped get veterans elected around the country because veterans shared my values, shared my belief in the greatness of this country, and moved to Florida on the theory that I could do that second chapter here, but outside of the spotlight of being the guy. And it turns out that I was wrong. My wife wanted to get away from politics, so we moved to Florida, and this is the best way I think I could contribute to the next 250 by reviving and revitalizing the promise of America and a more perfect union and the American dream, and contributing as an elected representing 23 million people here in the great state of Florida, and trying to do something to take our country, put it back on track, end corruption, make life more affordable, cutting costs, and delivering in the same way that I've done in my adult life.
So the why now question, I mean, there are obviously a lot of personal reasons for it, but I'm curious about whether, the why now is about this particular urgent moment. And we're going to get at some of those issues, but just broadly speaking, what is the urgency of this moment in your view?
I think we are in one of the most challenging, and I say this as a historian. We had a revolution, we had a civil war, we've had 2 world wars. We are in one of the most challenging moments in our nation's history because there is such a sharp divide in our politics, because the forces of corruption, the forces of the elites is really crushing the vast majority of the population. I have an opponent, Ashley Moody, who was appointed into her role because she authorized the transfer of $10 million out of a child welfare fund to use for political ads, and her payback was an appointment to the Senate. I have an opponent who's traded more than $2 million in stocks based on insider information. That is corruption. Should be illegal. People should go to jail for that kind of stuff. I have an opponent that sits on the Health Services Committee and trades big pharma stock. She's voted to give a free pass to this administration in this absurd, obscene, wasteful, thoughtless war with Iran 9 times without any accountability.
Right.
These are the things that I'm fighting against, to make sure that we take the state and the country in a different direction, so that my daughter, who's 15, finishing up 9th grade, could choose to live here next to dad in the great state of Florida, because she has all the job opportunities, that it's an affordable place to live, and that she has the rights and freedoms that at least her mother enjoyed. And that's not where we're headed. That my dad, who's 94, retired after 20 years of service as a civil servant in New York, is here. He just turned 94 a couple of days ago, that he could live in the state of Florida and afford to live here. I'm paying half of his rent. So that's the kind of stuff I'm fighting for. It's very practical and pragmatic, as well as the lofty vision of where we should be taking this country.
Right. So I've got some more sort of big picture questions for you. The second one, many know you as the whistleblower of Trump's call with President Zelensky that led to the first impeachment. What did you learn from that experience that influences your thinking now? And what does it say about your notion of duty?
I learned that there are, you could do the right thing and still suffer consequences. You could do the moral and ethical thing. I hate using these words because they're about myself, but the selfless thing oriented on the public good, on national security, and that there are consequences, real consequences to these kinds of decisions, but that you could live with these consequences. You could live with yourself. You could merge out of that, with a crystal clarity about the things that are important. Having served this country in combat, having to serve this country in difficult, embassies like Russia, I have a deep perspective on what really matters and what is less important. My own personal ambitions and career, in the big scheme of things, are far less important than what I've committed to and what I've sworn an oath to, which is support and defend the Constitution of the United States against enemies, foreign and domestic. So I learned that there are consequences, but that these are completely manageable, and something that I could live with trading away a career, even a 21-year career that I was very proud of, in order to deliver on the things that really matter.
You learned about your own resilience also in the face of those consequences.
Yep. And I learned that some fights are worth fighting. It's getting into the good trouble, into the necessary trouble. People sometimes forget that second part. And that, regardless, these are fights worth having. And this fight in Florida for the Senate seat is absolutely worth having, even though it puts my family back into the crosshairs and encourages, significant hardship. It is absolutely a fight worth having, because it's about the future of the state. It's about the future of my daughter and my dad, but it's about the future of the state and the future of this country. And I could do something about this. I could send a career corrupt politician packing and create room that helps achieve a more perfect union with expanded healthcare, with higher quality education, with a more affordable lifestyle. If we could get away from career politicians delivering for power,
right,
then we could create room for good ideas that deliver for people.
Well, you're getting me into the third question, which is really about leadership and in some sense about the state of the country, which has been overwhelmed, I would say, by a recklessly indifferent White House occupant, whose corruption and criminality, his singular and I would say malignant focus on enriching himself and feeding his own ego. But he was elected twice. And I'm curious, how concerned are you that Americans have grown accustomed to what I would say is sociopathic leadership, that it may be hard to return to a more honest, ethical leadership and a focus on good governance?
I feel like the people of Florida are hungry for a change in direction. They're hungry for a reform-minded candidate. They're hungry for a first-time candidate, but that's come out of a long career of public service and service at the highest levels of policy. And that sometimes we have a short attention span here in a lot of us, and we forget about
all across the country, not just in Florida.
Yeah, we forget about the chaos and corruption and what that produces in terms of crushing costs, and that there is now and this is why I feel like we're going to win this race. There is a deep hunger for a different direction. There is a deep hunger for some normalcy, getting away from the insanity of some of the reality TV and the corruption, and delivering folks that will hold the line, act morally and ethically. That there is a hunger for raising the bar on our electeds. It's interesting that too many people are dismissive and say, well, that's just politics, and to excuse bad behavior, instead of saying, well, that's politics. Those folks should be held to higher standards. And that's I think what I've been fighting for years, helping get veterans elected. And that's what I feel is connecting with certainly the right side of the spectrum. Republicans that are connecting with me, maybe in part on policy, but mainly on integrity and character and raising the bar on politics. And independents and Democrats also, but that's where my entry point is to the Republicans and conservatives.
Is that part of the pendulum swing? In other words, that the exhaustion that people may be having with this kind of sociopathic leadership, that this sort of desire for actual public servants and ethical leadership, may, if you will, come back in vogue, given where we are.
I absolutely think that's where we're headed. When people, my opponent, she didn't earn her space. Ashley Moody, she didn't earn her place in the Senate. She was appointed. And people don't know her. She has very low name recognition. She is a fundamentally weak candidate. And the contrast to my biography and what I've delivered for this country, and I think the values I try to live by are a stark contrast. But when folks learn about her, the corruption scandals around the highest insurance rates in the country because she's taken $1 million from the big insurance companies, that she's conducting insider trading, that she's taken money from every special interest, whether it's the utility companies, fossil fuels, big pharma. When they learn about this, they have no interest in her candidacy. That is the way that we're going to win, because this environment is singular. People are tired of corruption. They're feeling the pain and cost. We're going to win because I have a strong biography of having delivered for this country and lived up to a high set of values, and we're going to win on contrast to a career corrupt politician. I think that's how we win this race.
So you're leading me right into the fourth question, which is really a biographical question, right? Let's go back in time. You were born in Kyiv, in Ukraine. You came to America, to New York, as a small boy with your family. You pursued a life of service in the military as a student and a scholar of foreign affairs, and obviously much more. How has your immigrant experience shaped your life and your ideas about what it means to be an American?
I think it's integral to who I am. I think it has given me an enormous amount of perspective on the contributions that immigrants lend to this country, deliver for this country, that generations upon generations of immigrants have come here to build this country. And I think it's given me a deep appreciation for how special this country is, singular in the world, in that even in this dark moment, it offers a promise. It offers the American dream to all who come here, that they could work hard and achieve. That is becoming harder because corrupt politicians are delivering for special interests, but that is still the promise. And my commitment is to revive that promise and make that promise real, to make sure that we do provide those kinds of opportunities to our citizens and the generations ahead. So I think it also is, frankly, a unique point of connection to the communities here in South Florida and Florida as a whole. We have a large immigrant population. My family coming here as refugees from the Soviet Union, starting with nothing. Dad, at the age of 47, hauled furniture for the first 6 months. We lived in a one-bedroom apartment. Dad sharing that bedroom with us three boys. We thought it was terrific. I'm not sure how he felt about it, but and then landing a union job and working really hard to provide for his family. And the arc of that story is refugees to serving in the White House and now running for the Senate. My twin brother is a congressman in Northern Virginia. That is the American dream story. So I think, again, the immigrant component is part of it. The service component and serving in uniform for decades is part of it. Perspective of overcoming hardships, that's all part of it.
How has it affected your sort of look at this massive lawless, deportation operation, which, obviously has hit so many people without due process?
It is absolutely un-American to treat folks like this. It is. This has nothing to do with border security. We should, as a sovereign nation, understand who's coming in and have control of our borders. I think that's frankly in a lot of ways non-negotiable. It's kind of a sovereign responsibility, a sacred promise that the American government has with its people, just like national defense. Right. But what we're doing with regards to abusing communities, separating families, detention camps, what we're doing with regards to these decisions about snatching away temporary protective status for communities and sending them back to lands that are still in the midst of a crisis is un-American. We should not be taking a Haitian American community that is, sending them back to an island that is in chaos, still recovering from a devastating earthquake and from enormous unrest and all sorts of natural disasters. We should not be snatching away. We make a promise. You come here legally, you achieve that a temporary protective status. Until the conditions change, those folks have been promised the ability to stay here. Now, when those conditions change, that is an adjudication of a status that needs to be that we need to reconcile. We need to come to a conclusion there. But to snatch away a protective status is absurd. To put folks in detention camps, to send ICE in cities to abuse our minority population, absolutely unacceptable. It's un-American. And when I'm in the Senate, I will fight to make sure that we institute some guardrails, that we ensure that these aspects of government, DHS, fulfill their limited roles, not broad reach to abuse populations. That is a commitment I'm making.
Is there a chance to be able to provide a bulwark that will actually help some of the Haitians that are now facing deportation from this decision of temporary deportation, their temporary deportation status, the temporary protection status?
What's shocking is we've seen this unfold over the course of just recent days. The decisions coming out of the Supreme Court are deeply political and highly politicized. That is very different. That is really not all that different from the brand of corruption that I'm fighting with regards to my opponent, Ashley Moody. If the court is supposed to be a nonpartisan, apolitical court deciding on the merits of the law, but this court makes decisions about birthright citizenship and the 14th Amendment, it's kind of black letter, clear as day what the Constitution says. But this is a political decision that is too thin. A simple majority that's unacceptable. Yeah. So I think that there is a world in which we absolutely need to look at reforms in our government to make sure we take politics out of the court system, to make sure that we do something with regards to our Congress that is also hyper partisan and is failing to deliver for people. That's both parties. So that is something that I'm going to be looking at. What can we do to take politics out of our politics?
Yeah.
Take the hyper partisanship, take the corruption out of our politics, and kind of return or move towards something that delivers for people and not for political parties.
That's a big task, and I'm thinking, not just about elected officials. My fifth question actually is about your advice for people, for everyday Floridians, for everyday Americans who are wondering what can they do and how can they actually help right the ship of a broken body politic? What are the responsibilities of citizenship in this particular moment?
Yep. So participation is essential. I absolutely believe that the reason that we are facing some of the challenges we are today is because of the dual-edged sword of apathy and complacency. Apathy is the fact that folks don't feel the touch of democracy, feel left behind, and therefore don't participate. But we've seen the system further unravel. We've seen life get harder. We've seen costs crush folks and poor decisions being made. The fact is that if you don't participate, things will get worse. So that apathy needs to be shed, with the recognition that you could actually as an individual with your vote, you could take the country in a better direction. Complacency, the other side of the coin. It's the fact that things are going fine for lots of Americans. The belief that, somehow this administration was going to deliver on a America First agenda, and that was going to lend some prosperity. That also has not materialized for anybody besides the top 1%. The billionaire class, the elites, the special interests. So for those that were apathetic and complacent, the apathetic that didn't participate, the complacent that voted on like some narrow understanding of what this administration is going to deliver, shake that off, participate. You have an opportunity to take the state and the country in a different direction.
So this is again a sort of a moment I think about the need for an overwhelming victory among sort of Democrats in November. It does strike me that not only did 77 million people vote for Trump, that 89 million people stayed home, people who could have voted. Do you think that we are going to see a massive turnout in November?
I think the answer is yes. I'm seeing the indications here in Florida. I'm seeing a very energized Democratic Party, but frankly, that only gets you so far in a place like Florida. I'm seeing an energized, what we call them non-politically aligned kind of independents here in Florida that are showing up aggressively for national security type, independent-minded candidates, folks like myself, veterans. And I'm seeing Republicans cross over. That is those two notable elections that were covered some months back. That's what we saw appear, and that's what I'm seeing show up for me with regards to contributions to my campaign. That's what I'm seeing show up in the polling that we've been able to collect a change election with a new electorate showing up. So I feel pretty comfortable, and frankly, I would welcome folks taking a look at my record and taking a look at my policies, and go to alexvindman.com, take a look and see, that we have a lot of common ground across the political spectrum because we're fighting for the same thing, and would love to get your support.
Sixth question. What are the prospects? I'm looking forward now. What are the prospects for accountability and repair to rebuild trust in government and in justice and the rule of law and America's reliability and credibility as a partner with our historic allies? Can it begin in November, or will it really actually take the exit of Donald Trump and a Democratic president?
Oh, it absolutely begins in November. It will begin when I think the world sees that the American public has rejected this chaos and corruption. I think it begins with, frankly, in a lot of ways, the ability for a Congress in the hands of a Democratic Party, building bridges and reconnecting with our traditional allies. I think it begins with hearings and oversight that we have not witnessed under the single party rule of Republicans in the White House, in Congress, and frankly control of the Supreme Court. But that can't be really the limits. Accountability has to be only half of the equation. We have to, following this election, deliver some relief for the people of Florida and for the United States. For me, that means wrestling back tariff policy. For me, that means making sure that there is proper oversight and that there are not these absurd wars of choice that are driving up costs. For me, this is finding some common ground. Bipartisanship is not an option; it's a necessity. Finding some common ground with the Republicans that share at least those common objectives, even if they're in narrow lanes, to deliver relief for the people of Florida and around the country. So working in those two directions, I think we have a lot we could accomplish in the first 2 years, and the sky's the limit in 28. We should be thinking big picture after the next presidential election on what we could do to create this to revive and revitalize our more perfect union. Make sure that we deliver for the people that are left behind, and make sure we chart a course for a more prosperous next 250.
I've got a bonus question here for you. It's actually about the pursuit of that more perfect union, right? Last year, Trump was asked about what the Declaration of Independence means to him. He answered ridiculously that it's about love and respect and unity, which made clear he hasn't even read it. What does the Declaration of Independence mean to you?
Honestly, if it was coming from a different source, love and respect and unity would actually be a fine answer. The problem is that it is anathema to what we've been witnessing. I think the Declaration of Independence was supposed to chart a course for self-rule, self-determination, and for us as Americans to determine our path to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I think that the arc of our history has been to expand and to deliver on that agenda. We have faced many challenges along the way. We're facing some of those today, but I think it's frankly the ability to the biggest asset we have is if we set aside the corruption that we're witnessing, the corruption of our politics, the corruption of our courts, the corruption of our economy. We could really recapture that vision that our founding fathers charted for us. So I think that's what it means to me. I think it is a celebration of who we are, a recognition of what work is left to be done. To me, it's a moment of hope and optimism, even in what seems like a bleak moment for the future.
Well, and in this year, the 250th anniversary year, I mean, I think there's a lot of people who are having a hard time sort of thinking about how to celebrate. Maybe it takes till November and a few elections before some of that feeling will return.
Celebrate July 4th. My encouragement is, setting aside the chief executive and the caustic politics, it is a moment to celebrate this country with you, with your family, and you rekindle our passion for this country so that you can contribute your energies come November and going forward.
So thank you very much. Appreciate your insights. Before I let you go, one more thing, a lightning round, right? 6 more questions. You can answer with one word, or you can, give a sentence or two. Ready?
Yes.
What makes you happy?
My family, my daughter, my wife, our dogs. We just got a new puppy, but my family and extended family.
What makes you angriest?
I think I see this as a moment where freakish fringe forces on the left and right are tearing this country apart, and a house divided cannot stand. That makes me these forces are driving us to division.
What's your favorite word? A lot to choose from.
Yeah. The first thing that popped into my mind is, hope and kind of a future oriented optimism.
What living person do you most admire?
I have enormous respect for my dad and his and what he's sacrificed to deliver the American dream for us.
What historical person do you most admire?
I this
A lot to choose from.
yeah I love Lincoln. I love Theodore Roosevelt. Those are the two that come to mind immediately.
Finally, what gives you hope?
Young folks. I mean, it sounds like a bit of a cop out, but young folks, they're not tainted by all the baggage, all the negativity, and it's a joy to be around young folks, and model some good behavior and do something to drive their hope and optimism.
Well, your success, your modeling of what good leadership can look like, maybe helps a few of them on that sort of forward movement. So thank you very much. Appreciate your thoughts as always, and hope to do this again sometime. Thanks.
Looking forward to it. Thanks.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.